foolish mortals.
Hello there. Are you insane? Get out of here!
Remain seated with your seatbelt fastened.
Right, off you go.
Welcome to Average Joe Orlando. Hello, theme park goers. Welcome to another episode of Average Joe Orlando. Today we are going to deep dive, which is my nice way of saying look into the history of the Disneyland hotels. So currently out at Disneyland Resort in Anaheim, California, there are 3 hotels. There's the Pixar Place Hotel, the Disneyland Hotel, and the Grand Californian Hotel. And after learning some stuff about the Disneyland Hotel, I'm like, I need to keep deep diving this. Because I had a few questions the first time I was there. So I've stayed at the Disneyland Hotel now twice and the Grand Californian once. And then I had friends that stayed at the newly renovated Pixar Hotel. So it was a lot of those. It's not like Disney World. It's not like they just like built it and this is what it is. The Disneyland Hotel really confused me because I'm like, why is the monorail in the middle of downtown Disney? Why is the Pixar Hotel been rethemed and where it is? And there's so many different interesting things about it. So as I started deep diving, I learned a lot. And I thought it would make a great episode and to kind of deep dive into the hotels. Mainly the Disneyland Hotel because that's the old one and has the most history. And just a little bit stuff about the other 2. But Disneyland Hotel, learned a lot. So let's kind of get into it. Talking about the Disneyland Hotel in Anaheim, California. So it is owned now by the Walt Disney Company, but it opened in 1955. So same year as the park opened. More as like a motor inn, owned with an agreement under the Walt Disney Company by somebody else. His name was Jack Rather. I'm terrible at owning names. And it was the first like official hotel to have the Disney name. So now you think about how many Disney hotels there really are. This was the first one with a Disney name attached to it. So they kind of went basic, the Disneyland Hotel. So under the Jack's ownership, the hotel kept expanding and getting renovated over the years, and then was finally acquired by Disney in 1988. However, was downsized, which is ironic, to its capacity as what it is now. And though kind of went up a little bit in 99 as part of like when they expanded into like the Disneyland Resort. So if you don't know, the Disneyland was basically basic. It was the hotel and the park, and then they expanded it to include California Adventure, Grand Californian, make it more of a resort destination, which looks like they want to try again now with the Disneyland Forward project, which hopefully more information will come out and we can do an episode on that. But the Disneyland Forward project is basically how Disney's working with the city of Anaheim to see how further they can keep expanding the parks because they are really landlocked. I was surprised on my last trip out there. I never stayed off property, so it was very interesting to like take the Uber around the corner and go, oh wow, this is really like built up to the side of the road. And all these hotels around the area of Disneyland have been there since it opened. And they're one-off hotels, very family-owned kind of places. And it's obviously why sell it because you're probably making bank. You could probably book it out whenever you want because you're so close to the park. So that property really just jumped up. But let's go over some of the details of the Disneyland Hotel. So when it was constructed in the mid-1950s, Disneyland was basically just in like the remote Anaheim. So everything out there was just orange groves, nothing there. And so Walt wanted a hotel there so visitors can then stay overnight because it was kind of far. Like, why go all the way out and come all the way back to Disneyland? But unfortunately, Disney really couldn't afford at the time because the park cost so much money. So he kept trying to get people to do it. So he talked to his different friends, and people were kind of like, I don't know if I really want to do this. He talked to Sheridan and Hilton and really tried to figure it out. But then he negotiated with this guy, Jack, and decided to come up with the hotel for the Disneyland Hotel. And that would be across the street from Disneyland. So that's already my first one that go, wait, it's across the street? Then it was across the street. So this guy already owned hotels in like Las Vegas and Palm Springs, and he was already this rich guy. So he already had the money to do it. So the Disneyland monorail train at the Disneyland Hotel station was there in 1963, which is really interesting. So the Disneyland Hotel, that's why the monorail station is there, because that was the Disneyland Hotel station. So if you've ever been to downtown Disney there, it's definitely a different look and different kind of style. It's like a long straight shot. And over by, I believe it's the Lego store, is a monorail station. And it's very weird. I remember my first time going there, like, oh, why is the monorail here? So that was the station for the hotel. Now it's much further from the hotel. You have shops in the way, and then you have to cross like a little street to get there. So you have to think that's where the Disneyland Hotel monorail station was, because you were on the site of the original Disneyland Hotel. So it opened October 5th, 1955, about 3 months after Disneyland. And it finally opened, and they had limited capacity. It was just 100 rooms and then 5 two-story guest complexes. And that's all it really was. And they said online, which is really interesting, and obviously don't quote me, that it was $15 a night, which in 2003 comes out to $171, which is shows how much it's gone up. And they had shopping, dining, and recreation that was added in 56. And actually, they even had a dentist, doctor, and a hairdresser at a beauty salon all on site. So on the 25th, 1956, it officially opened. Hollywood stars came, and then it was quickly expanded in 1956 with 3 guest garden room structures, the North Garden structure, and then 2 more in 1960. So those are like those big towers. At that point, the hotel boasted over 300 guest rooms and suites, and it was the first hotel on the region to have accommodations for 4 people per room, which is crazy to think, because that's basically a general room now is always 4. So then as we go over, the hotel was expanded to include the 3 towers, and those are the ones that still stand today. Then they were called the Sierra, the Mariner, and the Bonita Tower, that were built in 62, 70, and 78. And let's see, they had, so this was really interesting. So in that middle area where you have like the monorail pool, and there's like Trader Sam's, they had a large waterfall feature. And then you could walk through different caves. Beyond the waterfall were seaports for the Pacific areas that included shops and products. They had a shipyard in seafood restaurant, a wharf bar with entertainment. They had a 20-minute show that was on there that would do a water fountain, which I believe is where the new DVC tower is. And then in 1982, they opened the off-road raceway in the Bonita Tower that had a 1/10 scale remote cars that could be rented by guests. And then they had a remote control boat attraction. So they had a very kind of, the Disneyland Hotel was more of a destination kind of area where you had all these like lagoons and these cool areas to walk around and explore. And you look at it now and you're like, that's all filled in. So guests would travel between the hotel and the Disneyland Park for the main entrance. So the Disneyland monorail was extended in 1959 to be at the hotel. And that's the recreation areas, attractions, and the convention center were all added in 1972. Convention center still added there. And then in 1970, they had the recreation vehicle park called Vacationland, which had its own pool and clubhouse, which was kind of like the Fort Wilderness Campground, which was over there also. And that the Fort Wilderness opened obviously in 1971, so this was around the same time. So the hotel also featured a service station that had for stuff for like Autopia and the different attractions. So it was basically like a whole one-shop stop for everything Disney. So Michael Eisner then became the CEO of Disney in 1984, and he wanted to get out of the agreement, and he wanted to own this hotel and have it under the Disney Corporation. And the guy kept refusing to sell, which I understand why. You own this property, you're probably making a ton. But unfortunately, the guy did pass away 2 months before Eisner took over. And then his widow passed away afterwards. And then Disney bought their entire company as well and was able to keep the hotel. They did acquire everything with the company, but sold everything off but the hotel. So clearly the idea of buying the company was so that they could own the hotel. So the Disneyland Hotel towers from Downtown Disney, the Dream Tower, and then they called it the Magic Tower, and they kind of kept expanding it and changing it. So then in 1997, the Vacation Land, so that Fort Wilderness kind of thing, was closed and demolished. And then in 99, that's when the significant portion of the hotel was demolished to make way for Downtown Disney. So that's kind of the area where like Lego Store is. And they made that for Downtown Disney and parking areas for the newly expanded Disneyland hotels. And the most of the east of the Sierra Towers and the North Marina, they were all demolished, including the original buildings for the hotel from 1955. And the only remaining buildings in these areas were the convention center and the parking garage. So the rec facilities were built between the 3 towers, and the Water Wonderland was replaced to located at the East Sierra Tower. So everything kind of kept getting moved and changed and demolished. All the streets that were used to access were retrograded or just kind of got rid of. And then the new street that was built to access. They completely redid basically the entire thing. So it wasn't basically like, we own this hotel, we're going to demolished most of it. They added tram service from the hotel. They got rid of the tram service at the hotel, and then the monorail was the only way to get back and forth from the hotel. The loss of the hotel rooms were offset, though, because then they built the Grand California Hotel in 2001. But a lot of the restaurants and the amenities that were there were never, ever replaced. They did add in 2012, though, Trader Sam's Enchanted Tiki Bar, and that's to the right of the Adventure Tower. So it's kind of interesting. They kind of were like, all right, what are we going to do? And if you know now, it's basically the Disneyland Hotel is 4 random towers that do not connect, but connect with a theme. So today, none of those original hotel buildings from 55 stand. Very little other than the original parking area and some of the service facilities are still there, but that's outside the perimeter. Original signs and artifacts from the were all demolished where the plazas and apparently are displayed, according to online, at the hotel's employee cafeteria. Let's see. There's Mickey Mouse theming is employed in many interiors, as I'm reading through some of my notes that I'm copying all over. So in 2007, this is the part, the Marina, Sierra, and Bonita Towers were renamed the Magic, Dream, and Wonder Towers. Then the other buildings in the hotel complex, houses, stores, offices, and banquet facilities started coming up. And then it also has a gazebo and the garden area that they use for the weddings. And that's over on the side. And then the downtown Disney monorail station was built on the same site as the original old Disneyland Hotel station. And if you don't know, that drops you off inside the park at Tomorrowland. It's not like the Disney World one. It puts you right inside. So then in 2009, they began another renovation for the Disneyland Hotel, and that was with the Dreams Tower. And then they kind of did all new windows, wallpaper, carpeting. They basically gutted it, redid it, and then finished that in 2010. And then the Dreams Tower became what's known today as the Adventure Tower. The Wonder Tower became the Frontier Tower when it got remodeled in 2011. And then the Magic Tower became the Fantasy Tower, which is the one where you check in at. So if you go around to all the different ones, each one has a different theme. And the new one, the DVC Tower, is called the Discovery Tower, which to me is more supposed to be like all the different lands of the park, as I think of it as. The Neverland Pool got redesigned in 2012, and they put in cabanas, water slides, and they did a cool replica of the original park sign along with the Mark I monorails to look like it. So it's really cool, but the new area was all built over there. And then in 2023, most recently, the DVC property, the Villas, opened, and that's a 12-story tower, and there's 344 guest rooms in there. And that's kind of how it looks today. So basically, they kept redoing all those towers and gutted the middle area and completely changed it. I know my first time there, I was like, wait, why are we checking into this tower? What are these towers? How does it all go? Those were basically the expansion areas of the original hotel, and the towers were behind the original hotel. And that's why there's no general lobby building. It's kind of in a tower, and that's why it kind of just sits out as it is today. So there's the other 2 hotels on property, and they all are within walking distance. It was nice. My last trip, my friends were staying over at Pixar. I was staying over at the Disneyland Hotel, and in the past, I've stayed at Grand Cal. When you stay at the Grand Cal, you basically don't have to leave. There is a way to get into the hotel, into the park, Disney California Adventure from there. So it's really interesting. But so you have the Pixar Hotel, or the Pixar Place Hotel. And basically that is a Pixar-themed hotel. Really cool. Wish we had it here in Florida. But it originally opened in 1984, and it was originally called the Emerald of Anaheim. And then it was later renamed the Pan Pacific Hotel Anaheim. And then Disney purchased this hotel in 95, and then they renamed it at that point the Disneyland Pacific Hotel. So basically it was kind of almost on property. It was one of those outside the area where Walt owned, so they were able to buy it, luckily. And you can imagine probably if that hotel held on to it today, what that property would be worth, because it's basically on Disneyland property. But they were lucky enough to be able to buy it, and they renamed it as the Pacific Hotel. And then when they redid the whole area with California Adventure and built it, so as part of the expansion, they renamed it Disney's Paradise Pier Hotel, and that was to mirror what was going across the way. So that was where Paradise Pier looks over. So if you ever go to California Adventure and you see that hotel in the background on Paradise Pier, which is now Pixar Pier, that was the Paradise Pier Hotel. So the hotel was always kind of like they kept having to rebrand it and update it. But then in January of 2024, it officially became the Pixar Place Hotel. Because if you don't know, Paradise Pier essentially went away and they made it Pixar Pier. So now it replicates that one. From what I've heard, the Paradise Pier Hotel was always very dated, a little bit shoddy. It was okay. The Pixar Hotel, what they have done is fantastic. So they have the only place on property where you can meet Bing Bong from Inside Out, meets in the lobby. They also have Joe Gardner come out and play sets on the piano at night. So it's kind of a nice, cool vibe at night because he comes out and plays the piano and talks to you, which is fantastic. They've also added temporarily like a Pixar mini golf area in the convention section. They have little characters all over on the floor that you can look for. My favorite is the long chair. When you walk into the lobby, is a giant Heimlich from Bug's Life, so underrated. The Pixar lamp is right there. They have a sit-down restaurant that's operated by a third-party company. So there's definitely a lot to do of what they've done over in that area. Other restaurants, I will say, if you go over to the Disneyland Hotel, which is right behind it. So there's like a little parking area, and you could walk back and forth. The Disneyland towers are all in the middle. There's a quick service restaurant where you could order. There's also the Trader Sam's, and then they have a pool bar over at the new DVC tower, and then a coffee shop, as well as Goofy's Kitchen, the character dining. So a lot of places to eat just between those two. But their number one hotel, according to them at least, is there's Disney's Grand Californian Hotel and Spa. And that one was part of their big expansion of the Disneyland Resort in 2001. And the hotel was supposed to be like the American Craftsman style. If you think more of Wilderness Lodge, the same architect did that hotel. So it's a little bit like on a smaller version of that hotel. And it's supposed to be like old, like California, very, very pretty. It has a DVC, a Disney Vacation Club wing that opened in 2009, and then they started remodeling a lot of it in 2017. To me, it's still a little bit older looking, and the rooms still need to be a little zhuzhed, and it is much more expensive. That's why I didn't stay there last time. I was like, nope, we're not going to be staying there. But it was very cool. They have 948 rooms, 44 suites, 71 villas, but obviously they have been trying to expand Disney Vacation Club, and that is why they built the new tower, which from last time I went there, I'm like, so what was here? What was where the tower was? They said there was a small building and like a fountain, and that's where they were able to build the newest tower. So it's crazy. They keep finding rooms and places to build over at the Disney Resort. I'd be curious if they could ever fit in a fourth one. So it's supposed to be the sister resort to the Grand Floridian Resort, the Grand Californian, Grand Floridian, get it? And that's supposed to be kind of the background of where it goes. So it did open in January of 2021 as part of the expansion. And then they did expand furthermore to get more of the Vacation Club area. And yeah, they have the Vacation Club, they have the pool area. Trying to think what else they have over there. Yeah. But if you go there, it's great because it's literally inside the park. They have a special entrance that lets you right inside, and it drops you off by the Grizzly Peak. The first time that I ever stayed there was great because I remember there's Grizzly Peak. I went up to my room, put on a bathing suit, walked outside, literally rode the rapid ride, and then walked to the pool. The food there was great. The atmosphere was great. They do have a spa there that recently opened, and then they have a restaurant that it's really known for that I did not eat at. It's called Napa Rose, and it opened in 2001 over there also, and that's supposed to be kind of a fancy, kind of nice restaurant. Won a lot of awards. Very like wine steak kind of place. There's the Craftsman Bar and Grill that's over there that was refurbished recently, and kind of like the pool deck bar. And I remember we got food there a few times, and that was great. I will say I found it a little bit harder to find quick or grab and go options when that was a little bit easier to find when I stayed over at the Disneyland Hotel. They did have a coffee place. I do think they try to cater more towards like the convention areas over there. Maybe I'm wrong, but I did seem to like that one. So if I had to pick when I go back, it'll probably be the Disneyland Hotel, unless they redo some of it over at Disneyland, the Grand Cal, or at least change the pricing. But the rooms are cool because you have rooms that look over Disney. I want to say Disney Springs. I know that's wrong. Disney's, what is it called? Downtown Disney, duh. So they have rooms that look over Downtown Disney. They have theme park view rooms, which is really cool. I was on Goofy Sky School on my last visit, and the rooms literally back up, which probably could be annoying after a while, just hearing people screaming out your window on that ride. But it's kind of cool that your room can look over there. However, if you really want a cool view of World of Color, they have rooms over at the Pixar Hotel, and the Pixar Place Hotel not only is walking distance, they have a special gate now that lets you in. As of now, it's from 7 to noon. You can get in this special gate. You just show your Pixar room key, and you pop in literally like right by Goofy's Sky School area or the Golden Zephyr. It literally pops you out right in the middle of the park. It's completely quiet. Nobody really uses it. It turns to an exit only after 12 to I think like 7 p.m. at night. So you can only exit from that area. But it's also really nice. It's going to save you a lot of time to get back to your hotel. So that was a really nice perk of staying there. Staying at the Disneyland Hotel obviously is the furthest of the three. I found a lot of times I would cut through the Grand Cal if I was going to Disney's California Adventure, or just take the walk. Unfortunately, my last trip, the monorail was closed, or else I would have hopped on the monorail and dropped right off in the middle of Tomorrowland. That definitely would have been a nicer option. But really, everything is so close, coming from Disney World, where I'm so used to all of our hotels, 30 of them, being so spread across property. It's very one of those, I want to stay at the Animal Kingdom Lodge, but I'm going to be far from Magic Kingdom. Or I want to stay at the Contemporary, but I'm going to be far from Animal Kingdom. And, Magic Kingdom. They're all not, there's nothing that's close to all four parks. Here, everything's close. Everything's walkable. You will get your steps in. But I think all of them are great, and all of them have perks, and each one has something that you could want. Or you could stay off property. There's so many other choices around that are so close. It really depends on what you want out there. To me, I like to stay in the bubble. I do wish they had a bus service like we used to have here in Florida, where it will take you back and forth. I did find my best way was just to Uber from LAX to Disneyland. And then I did rent a car one time, but then you drop it off and you just have to kind of deal with the car, parking, traffic. It was kind of just easier just to do the Uber to go back and forth to that location. But anyway, now I'm just rambling. As I mentioned, lots of great options at Disneyland, and a really interesting history to the Disneyland Hotel. One that kind of puts into ideas of why it is the way it is and why it's laid out the way it is. The first time I went, it was definitely one of those, okay, why is this like this? And then when you look at old pictures, I highly recommend looking up online older pictures of the resort. You'll see what used to be there and how there were boats where the pool is, and how people used to take boats out at the hotel, and how there was a dancing fountain show, kind of like the Bellagio, which makes sense because the original owner did own Vegas and Palm Springs hotels, so kind of tried to do that Vegas kind of look to it. But now it's a very Disney-themed hotel. To me, I think it's the most Disney-themed. Obviously, you have the Pixar one, but this one just feels like old-school Disney. It feels like classic Disneyland, and it kind of feels like what I want there. And definitely has come a long way, and I'm definitely curious to see where they keep going with it. But anyway, with that, I will see you at the parks.
Thanks for taking a ride with Average Joe Orlando.
You made it! I knew you would.
Is everyone okay? Hope you still want to open an account.
Say cheese! See you later!
Thanks, everybody. You were brilliant.
At this time, gather up your personal belongings and take your small grubs by their grubby little hands as you exit. Thank you.